Hello, Mindful Millionaire community. We're going to give folks a few minutes to arrive, but if you're joining us, I would love it if you let us know where you're connecting in from. If you're watching the replay, type in # replay. Tell us where you're listening in or watching from. We'd love to see that. And if you have further questions beyond what we covered today, then be sure to post those questions and tag me, and I'll ask Tim or I'll ask myself and we'll get an answer. Hello, thanks for joining us. Go ahead and let us know where you're connecting in from, who you are from the comments. Leisa, hello. So Leisa asked the first question.
She did. She's ready and waiting.
She was, yes. She's like, I read him the questions and there were a lot of laughter, so we might have more of that. Hi, Laurel. So Laurel came to Sedona for the last retreat that we did. And Leisa, and Lisa's in Stuart, Florida. So way down there. Did you see that there is a hurricane on the way to Hawaii?
Yes, I did.
Oh my gosh, I just saw that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Hello. Thank you so much for joining us. Tim is super nervous. He has never been... Have you ever had to do anything like this before?
Never. My hands are sweaty.
It's gonna be okay.
This is my first adventure into anything social media. Ever.
So that's the camera.
That's
right
the I'm supposed to look at the camera. Okay.
Yep, exactly. Well, there's people here. Leisa has been getting familiar with doing lots of live videos. It's not for the faint of heart, so it's better if you're just dragged onto the screen and then you just start and it
kicking
goes
and
great.
screaming.
Maybe. Tim gets points for just showing up.
I'm just showing up.
That's right. Yes, we'll all like, yay, you did it. It's going to be okay. You survived the first couple minutes. So
58 to go.
And Deb is here. Hi.
Hello.
Hey, y'all. So you can see the notes, right?
Yes, I can see the notes.
Okay. We're learning about eCam. So, okay, thank you so much for joining us. And then this tells us like how many people. We got a thumbs up. Sometimes we get hearts. If you want to give us hearts, then he'll see what those look like. He's just learning. Okay, welcome. And I know that there were some couples that were also joining us, so that's pretty fun too. Okay, so we are going to, see, that's what a heart looks like. Thank you. So we are going to dive into these questions, but first I just wanted to introduce my husband, Tim.
Hello.
We met in 1987. You can actually count back that far, 33 years ago at UC Davis, and we've been hanging out ever since. And he, by trade,
I forgot to go home.
You forgot to go home, that's right. He has been in construction and project management and overseeing large-scale construction projects for many years. All residential. So a lot of those residential properties were owned, but then also for other people and remodels. And he's actually perfect for what we are needing here in the company. And we'll talk a little bit about that. But he's like the structure. He's the yang. I'm the yin. I'm gooey. He's
not.
And so we make quite the pair, and we are learning about how to work together. And it's been actually super, super cool to me. I don't know. How has it been? 2 weeks in?
What's the drinking from the fire hose type of thing? So I'm learning all about her business. I know a lot about her business and have known a lot about her business, but I think it's this that I really didn't understand, and all the technical aspects and how, because she was and has been decidedly very untechy. She doesn't read instructions. She's just not that tech person. And I am absolutely astounded at how much she knows. It is amazing.
Well, yeah, there's a lot to learn. Whipping out like the web pages in a couple minutes, and creating lead pages and podcasts and YouTube and craziness. Like when there's typos, if you knew all the steps behind getting to that email or whatever it took, you probably better understand why. You miss little details because there's so many parts of the equation.
Details.
So thank you so much for these questions, and definitely let us know. We've got several people. I have no idea who's joining us, so tell us who you are. Just say hey, and that gives us an idea of who's in the audience. And feel free to ask questions, because we're going to go through some of these questions, and we, like I said, started to go through some of them before. I actually have no idea.
A lot of windows open here.
Yeah, that's me. Okay, so the first question came in. Let's see. I assume, this is Lisa's question. She said, I assume you're into practical stuff. How were you able to roll with Leisa as she dove into meditation and starting the coaching business? Hi, Marnie. Any advice on husband management? That was...
Well, so the meditation and the coaching business were two different things. So the meditation started many years before the coaching started. So she had some traumatic events in her life, and she needed to try and find a way to answer her own questions and come to an understanding of both herself and the world around her. And that's where she started the meditation thing. Growing up, I had no practical understanding of outside of just what you see in the movies. And there was a couple of times when she would go overseas, and I was wondering if she was going to come back, because she was enjoying this self-discovery so much. But she always did come back, and I appreciated it. But the coaching, on the other hand, how was I able to roll with her being a coach? I think it's kind of natural in her from the aspect of being having a lot of good motherly instincts. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
And if he says watermelon or I say watermelon, then that means that's like a word where, okay, we don't need to go into that anymore.
That's our safe word. Meaning stop.
Just saying.
Anyway.
Okay.
So I thought that it was perfectly natural progression for her to get into the coaching, because she had been, when she was doing the meditation and learning about the meditation, she was so excited about this that she wanted to go out and share it with everybody. And so she started teaching meditation, and it seemed like a natural progression when she wanted to do something that was more business oriented to take that coaching into business. So it was perfectly reasonable change, or I don't know if it was change or progression.
The other way, let's see, I think working together must be an ultimate test of a couple. Yeah, I think that you're right. You should have seen a few of the mornings were not very pleasant this past couple of days. But maybe too, like this whole conversation, and I think it came up a few different times, but I had been the primary consistent breadwinner for the family since we first got together. Like I always had the consistent income, and I had the benefits.
Yeah.
And
so I was almost always self-employed. So she had, and self-employment, as many of you may know, is there's highs and lows and lots of stuff in between. So you never really know. And with her having a corporate job, it was always, we knew exactly what was happening, how much she was going to make, and what the benefits looked like. And that was very reassuring for me to go out and experiment in my business and try things in my business, and not feel the pressure to do anything other than what I really wanted to do. And so, to be honest, when it did come time for her to go out and do something like that, I mean, what could I say? I had my opportunity, and now it was her turn.
Aww. That's how you felt?
Yeah.
Okay. It was still scary for both of us.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
there were a lot of times where I think maybe some of the biggest stressful conversations were around things like health insurance and what to do and how to handle kind of health insurance without having, anything but the exchange or policies that we had to get. But the mindset was the other piece of coming up in a few of these questions around. Here I've been doing all this growth and personal development and flying off and going into the closet for 3 months and to meditate and all these things. And meanwhile, you ended up, I think, taking over parenting a lot more.
A lot of daddy daycare.
A lot of daddy.
While I'm working.
While he's working. So he took on a lot of that during those years of deep exploration. And then also just the shifts that have happened. I think my impression is I'll make these huge shifts and then Tim ends up going, wait a minute, if I don't get with the program, then she's like, what goes on? I'm curious.
Well, yeah, okay. So I learn everything that she's doing kind of by osmosis. And if anybody's known her for very long, she enjoys talking about what she's doing, and it's difficult to get through a day sometimes without discussing something that she's learned or some idea that's bouncing around in her head. We go for walks every night, and it's usually oriented around her business, and it's fine. I mean, I learn a lot every single time we talk. I learn something. So I didn't have to show up to any events, or because I was just picking up these little tidbits as things were going along. And it's been great. I really, really appreciate it.
Well, one of the questions, it didn't necessarily show up here, but you have been asked it before, where if a partner is going on this intense spiritual journey that you don't understand, right? That you don't fully understand what's happening, like what advice would you give to someone like myself and many of the listeners? What would you say to me that could have helped it be easier for you?
What would I say to you? Well, I think maybe some measure of reassurance that this is, and I think I felt that, but I don't know that you actually came out and said it, because you were maybe trying to grab onto everything that came your way. And I think some measure of reassurance from you at the time is like, this is important to me, and it's not that I am stepping away from you. This is whatever I learn, I will be able to pass on to you. And I think that's what we're all doing every single day, is we're learning from our particular experiences, and whether it's to our children, to our family, to our friends, to our neighbors, we're basically just relating our experiences to them, and trying to, if they have a problem or even if they don't have a problem, because I think that's kind of mostly what makes us human, is just some sort of relating our ideas with another person, but not necessarily telling them something, but just providing some measure of information. You're not being judgmental. You're just like, hey, I learned this thing and I think it's great, and what do you think? And if you don't think the same way, it's perfectly fine. But
you're not wrong for not.
No, you're not wrong.
So let me summarize, because there was a lot going on there. So
I babble.
So first of all, the advice is for the person who's going through a lot of changes in transforming right before their own eyes, much less a partner's eyes. First is to tell them, this is about me. It's not necessarily about you, and I'm not running away from you, but I am trying to be present in the relationship and do this work that I need to do. Like, so, and then the less judgmental you are, like the less judgmental I am to you, the easier it is for you to sort of watch and observe what's going on without being judgmental towards me. And in the beginning, I was really judgmental. I
don't remember that.
You don't? No. Oh, you're so sweet. You have, like, that was a long time ago, 21 years ago. Well, when I come back, I got this really great advice from a teacher in England that I was like a mentor in this Buddhist tradition, and I was going home after 2 weeks of like just the biggest breakthroughs, and I was like, I don't really want to go home. Like, it's tough at home. This is like the Pure Land, heaven. And my teacher said, I want to give you some advice. Like, the best thing you could do is not go back and talk about what just happened in the way you're talking about it right now. And that instead of fire hosing all these things that happened, give him time to just soak in like what's happened for you. Like, just observe it on his own terms, and don't tell him how you're all different. You're not sure you actually want to stay in the relationship, because I think I was feeling some of those things at the time. And I came home, and it was fascinating because had she not told me that, it would have been really bad. But he was really, really irritated, having been a single parent for 2 weeks with a toddler who was pretty challenging at the time. And he kind of needed to have his own breakdown to break through. And had I come back and kind of fire hosed him with information, he would have even been more overwhelmed. But instead, he needed to unload. And it was about him having his time, because he hadn't gone off on the retreat. And he hadn't, but he felt it. And I think that's what's amazing about in these relationships, is that we've both witnessed that even though he's not doing the work in the same way that I am, he still ends up having the breakthroughs, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Does it feel like it's forced onto you? Or does it...
No, not forced on. No, I wouldn't say so. It's I do remember a few instances where there were some people that she was communicating with who were making statements like, well, you know, if you're progressing along and wherever your mind is going, if your husband doesn't go along with you, then you need to just walk away, because it's important for that person to think the same way that you do, and to be moving along at the same speed. Keep all of that. And I don't think that she really thought so, and I don't think so. I don't think that that's not a reasonable expectation of another person, to demand that they take on your same journey and progress the way that you do. I wouldn't expect that of anybody. That's like telling your kids that they have to think and do exactly the same thing that you do. And would you ask your child to do that? No. You want them to be kind, of course, but you don't need them to be interested in the same things as you are.
Or even have necessarily the same beliefs.
The same beliefs.
Like, one of the things that we...
Can't you sit at a table with two people that have different beliefs and just enjoy the opportunity to have a conversation, maybe not about beliefs, but that it's raining and it's beautiful.
Yeah. Well, a few things. I know a lot of questions came in around money and our philosophies about money. But before I even answer or kind of dive into that...
We haven't answered any of those questions over there.
Well, we're kind of answering them, okay. But structure. Okay. So... in our home, we don't tell our children that they need to think a certain way politically. In fact, we don't expect each other to fit into a box like Democrat or Republican. In fact, when my daughter went off to college, she was really frustrated. We were on a hike once. She came back home and she said, you know, it would have been really, really helpful if you had told me the difference between the political parties. Like, leaving it all up to me is a little overwhelming at this stage, because people in college were already in the camp that their parents had sort of taught to them. And we were like, well, we want you to figure that out, just like we want you to figure out religion or whatever it is that you believe, we will answer questions, but we don't want to bias you in a certain direction about the way that you believe. And I think we treat each other that way. Like some of our greatest kind of, I don't know, they might look like arguments, but they're actually just passionate conversations are about like, what do you think? And maybe we play devil's advocate. And then by the time we're done, and I feel like this really came out in the book, I would say something or he'd read something and he's like, I don't know, like, I'm not sure that that's actually what you really believe because you do this or that. And then it's written this way. And we would talk about it. And in the course of talking about it, the book would change shape because, well, one of the things he was really adamant about, he's like, no cliches, like do not have cliches in anything that you write. And I was like, okay. I'm like, I write cliches everywhere. And he's like, no. So then, right. So he's like, find another way to describe it. But just this idea that, we each have our own way of thinking about things. And that when we cut that off by having a certain belief for our children or for ourselves, life isn't as interesting. I love that. I love that. The other thing you mentioned, again, off script, was around competition. Could you talk about that? Because that's super important too.
So I don't think either of us really have a competitive gene in us. Outside of potentially competition when we're playing a game in the house, some cards
You
or
are.
something. Okay. I do fall into that. But outside of the home, I don't think that either of us are competitive at all. And so competitive when we're trying to present ourselves as our impression to other people, or even in the attempt to competing against myself, like how much better can I do this? How much faster, or how much more money or whatever I can make. Neither of us are really.
But your point is, we're not in competition with each other.
So I guess that's what I said. I forgot. So because we are not competitive in the outside world, I suspect that we're not competitive against each other. So again, I guess it kind of plays into maybe where we started this was the idea is like I had my opportunity to go out and do things on my own, and when she had the chance, I'd like, great, I'll take a step back and let you do that because it doesn't bother me. I'm not feeling the
need to compete.
The need to compete.
Be better than you. Better than you. So back to money. Okay. We both came from really different backgrounds. My parents weren't good with money, and your parents were really good with money, like very conservative.
Not overly successful, but definitely careful. Let's say careful, and they are careful to this day, but I wouldn't say extravagant. No, not at all.
No, but they had conservative kind of values about spending, for example, and living within your means.
Debt.
Whereas, with debts. Whereas my parents, they weren't really that way. So the question was, what did we do when we first came together? And I was remembering, because of these questions, I was like, oh, this is so interesting. I was really focused on making a lot of money, and Tim wasn't. He was like lifestyle and quality of life was the thing that he didn't feel like he had to prove anything. He didn't need an expensive car. He didn't need he likes nice houses because he likes to build them. But does that make sense? Like he didn't look at his happiness in personal property as much as I tied them together. So when we first came together, the way I figured it out was, I don't know if you remember this, I was like, we're going to keep our money separate because you don't make enough and you're not going to be able to keep up with all the things I want to buy. Do you remember this? Like we kept it separate and we were together.
Doesn't make any sense.
I know, we kept it separate for a really long time. Hi, Gloria. And then when we had a child, I was like, okay, now it's a little more complicated. Like I remember trying to figure out how we could keep money separate, and we had already been together for several years, like 5 or 6 years. And I realized that having a kid meant that I was like, well, you're going to pay this much.
I'm going to buy the diapers. Yeah. You're going to buy the formula.
No, it was terrible. Okay, so then I like, oh, we're supposed to mingle money together. So then we were like, okay, we're going to do this. And we had already owned a house together and we still were keeping money separate. I was like, yours and separate and mine. And then we just gave up after having a child. And at that moment, I think I had to start. I think I didn't want anyone to tell me what to do with my money. And so I still had to kind of play it. You didn't really pay that much attention to what I did, maybe. I don't know. So, okay, it wasn't necessarily the healthiest thing. I'm just being really honest.
I'd totally forgotten this. Interesting.
However, we have commingled money ever since. Sometimes we joke about it, like what would happen if we had to like cut it down the middle. Just, I don't know, me keeping score, something like that. He doesn't pay attention to any of that. Do you?
No.
But our spending behavior, I think I had to come in line and be more respectful. And that was probably a really good influence on me to spend less. But it took years and years to learn how to spend less because I was basing so much of my own self-worth on how much money I had and what my clothes looked like and all of that stuff. So, and how important is money to you? Okay, you guys got to hear this just because I never know what's going to come. How important is money to you? Or why is it important?
Oh, I don't know. So I can eat the food that I want, go on a few trips now and then, and save enough that if I get injured in my job or in my play, I can take care of myself.
Is money seen as a tool?
A tool?
Yeah.
Well, absolutely. And tools have value because I am a guy who owns a lot of tools and I buy a lot of tools. And I understand the value of purchasing the proper tool and taking care of it. You're not abusive to it. But in the long run, it is a tool. And at some point it breaks or you have to replace it, and it's just one of those things.
Yeah. What happens when you feel like you've made a mistake with money?
I figure that I didn't do enough research on my end to prevent that mistake from happening.
Yeah, so you hold yourself
I
responsible.
Do. Yeah. Well, I don't hold anybody responsible for anything that happens to me. It's only me.
Laurel's, he does have a really good radio voice.
I've got that great radio voice in a world. I don't hold anybody responsible for anything that's ever will happen to me because I figure it's my personal responsibility to prepare for those things.
Yeah.
And kind of take it as it comes.
He's pretty hard on himself
I
when
am.
Things don't work out financially. He's really hard on himself, and I'm working on it. I'm like, it's going to be okay. It's all worked out. And then I try and find like the silver lining all the time. Like, it's going to be okay. Be gentle to yourself. Let's see. What other questions? And feel free to ask questions
We've still only done the first one.
No, we kind of...
Okay.
So we talked about relationship with money early on. We came from different backgrounds.
Okay.
What do you do when one of you is working on mindset and the other is stuck and not interested in mindset work?
We kind of answered that, but... well, she's always the one working on mindset. And I just let her go. So
and
boring answer.
Okay, it works. I haven't had to say watermelon yet. So okay, what growth spots as a couple you have had to work on when it comes to managing money?
Well,
and
we
working
talked about
together?
the combining of the money there.
Yeah, and I mean, I think big things would be. He has a perception. So this is cool. He has a perception that I am very loose with my money. Is that fair? Or looser than you are?
More willing to make investments on a whim versus me. I tend to once in a while suffer from analysis paralysis and things don't get done. Mm-hmm. And she's more willing to make that jump. And we argue on occasion
Yeah.
about this.
Yeah, we do. We do. It's like, but it's just that perception. I feel that energy of like judgment. She's about to do something that she shouldn't do. And I can feel it. And I kind of freeze like, okay, what's going to happen next? And then we work it out, right? Then I work on like, well, this is why it's so important, and this is why we need to take advantage of it now. And sometimes Tim has been known to wait so long that he misses out on opportunities, and so we're kind of dancing back and forth. So in this case, I am more driven about it.
So I read a lot. And I read a lot of classic books, and I'm back reading Don Quixote right now, and I tried it about 15 years ago and couldn't wade through it. So I'm reading it, and there was a thing in there last night where Sancho Panza, he is the squire to Don Quixote, and his wife says something to him, and his wife says, in your life, you can't be the person who complains when good things don't come your way, and yet complains again when you don't take the opportunity when a good thing comes your way. So somehow you have to find that middle ground. You have to, as things come along, and whether it's good or bad, you just have to take it as it comes, and then you don't know if it's good or bad after it's gone, so just take it as it comes. And I struggle with that all the time, but I could probably make more sense if I read the quote directly. But I was thinking this last night as I'm reading, I'm like, oh, that makes so much sense.
So what does it mean to you?
Take advantage when things come, but don't complain, sit around waiting. It's like, good things don't happen to me. You can't be that person who complains that good things don't happen to you. And when an opportunity comes your way and you miss it, don't complain that you missed it. Just be aware, I suppose. Maybe that's what it means.
You're like a philosopher.
No.
Truth bombs. I know you are. You're like, and Aiden is like a total philosopher. I need to get Aiden in here. I'm just like, where is this coming from? So, okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for that. So, let's see. Suspect that things have shifted in our relationship that make it possible for us to work together. And what are those shifts inside each of you? And I'm guessing each one of you will be different. So the release of the book and all the things going on, but has something shifted in each of us? For COVID, I've mentioned that COVID sort of created this opportunity for you to want to come on board. But what were you?
I think it's complicated. It's much more complicated than that.
Zoe's here.
Zoe. So it's much more complicated than just that. So you can't. Okay. No one, I don't think, can ever point to one situation or one element that makes a decision, because we have a lifetime of experience that helps us make these decisions. So. COVID has allowed me, maybe that is the word, has allowed me to look out and maybe take in ideas for something different to do. And I think I've been mostly just bored in my industry for a long time. I think I've done just about everything, and I want to try something new. And so. It's exciting because I like the creativity part, the physical creativity part potential there. So the creating of web pages or things like that. Everything that she does, that's tough for me to wrap my head around, and I'll just leave that to her. And I like the fact that we can work together, and it allows us to still have some measure of flexibility in our life. If you count getting up at 4:15 every morning a flexible lifestyle.
It's a good lifestyle. At 3:30.
But we don't have to leave the house, and we can work here together. It doesn't mean that I'm not doing things. I'm still doing things, but I like the opportunity to bounce ideas off of each other for her business. And I think she's kind of at that point where she wants to make the next step, and she needs someone who's able to push her buttons as far as cleaning up some of her loose ends and picking up the crumbs and help her with some of those things. So
Well, we talked these stages of being in business. So at first you start out and you're a startup, right? And you're kind of figuring your pathway out. And then the next stage of business is really about making sure you're finding your target client and that you've got a consistent, stream of people coming to the work that you're doing, and you're playing with the pricing and you're working it out so that you have a viable, it's kind of like minimally viable business. And then at some point you realize that you are not going to be able to stay that same business in order to go to the next stage. And that would be what would be considered like not ramp up, but like scale up or build up. It's like your build up. You're building, I think Todd calls it build up, where you've got the systems that you need, and you need the consistency of doing the same thing over and over again, which is not my strength. Like, I'm always into new and what's interesting to me versus like what's going to be interesting to support a business. And until you reach that third stage, you really don't have a full-on business. You kind of have something that could go by the wayside pretty easily. But once you start implementing the systems, which is what Tim has done in his career for the past 30 years, is it's all about consistency and accuracy and a model that you're following. And so he's holding me responsible for that. And then he's asking all these questions and uncovering a lot of holes that I just hadn't paid attention to. So it's like kind of, we're looking at both stage 2 and stage 3 of the business in kind of moving into that and having the consistency. So it's super exciting because there's so much to learn and
too much.
And we've created some really good stuff that I'm going to share next week for the workshop and beyond. So, okay. I don't know if we answered everything there, but let's see. Where they're worried about moving energetically apart from each other as you expand into this new space of coaching and authorship. And there was a question by Ellen. I'm not sure if you're here, Ellen, but Ellen was asking, like, as I have created a brand around myself and kind of wrote a book, and you start feeling like you're taking up more space in the world. Whereas I think before I started my business, I had never really thought of myself as someone who could like be a thought leader. But once you write a book, you're sort of putting that stick in the sand, right? And expanding. And so I think there was a question of like, has that impacted you? Anything there?
Well, besides my complete reluctance to take on a public persona of any sort, and
too late
now. It's fine, but I think the hardest thing that it's going to be for me to do is, because this is her business, not interjecting any of my personal, if you want to call it, belief structure or ideas. I can call to question things that she says and say, why are you saying that? Why do you think that? Or is there a better word or a better way to express it? Much more so than saying, you should say this, because I don't think that that's my responsibility to ever do that. Especially because, I am just, I'm in more the taking care of the back end, the things that people maybe don't have direct relationship to. They see, but it's her job to actually work with all of you and find out what's going on. And I have no real expertise in that. So it's not my place to tell her. I can ask her. So, and I think it's important to always ask people why they think that way. And to be honest with you, if they can't answer it, then it's not real to them. They have to be able to answer it. And I think that's a problem with a lot of people, is they believe things, but they don't have any structure in their psyche to say why they believe something. So let somebody ask you a question. Don't take it as judgment, but let somebody ask you a question and really try and answer it honestly. So that's my job with her, is just poke a few holes here and there and see why, and see if she can close them up.
But it's so interesting. I'm like, that was really good. I'm enjoying this because I think I realized why it's been so fun this past couple weeks. And I didn't know, like, you're not trying to come in and say it should be something other than what's been created.
No, I'll give you grief about the graphics, because that's my gig, but not the content.
But it's so joyful for me because I'm not having to, I'm like processing this. I'm not having to defend. I don't feel like I'm having to defend what I'm teaching. And that's a really fine balance because he's asking really, really tough questions, but he's asking them at a level of like, you need to understand the answer to this question. Not because he has an idea of what I'm supposed to answer. That's really big.
Yeah.
Like, how'd you do that?
I don't know.
Oh my gosh. Thank you, Cynthia. I'm like, wow, you're really good at this.
So
this coach is really cool. Who knew that I had like a coach?
My example with this, so being in the building industry for as long as I have been, I am constantly bombarded with building codes. I am asked to do things constantly, and then I am inspected upon this thing that I am asked to do. And when the inspectors come out, and there's building codes that make no sense to me, and so the inspector comes out, and very often I ask him why. Why is the code written this way? And invariably, they have no answer. They don't understand, and that bugs me. That's their job to inspect. So I am constantly asking myself, the people around me, the people that I work with, why do you do it that way? And if you don't know why, is there another way to do it? Or is there a better way? Just we get stuck in bad habits, and it doesn't serve anybody to just work in habits all the time and not question what you're doing. I question what I do every single day. I'm like, why the hell did I get up this morning? Because I got to get something done.
Thank you.
Oh, okay.
Any questions? Let's see, what's it been like during the transition? You may have answered this, but how's it going so far? 2 weeks in to your new job.
I'll let you know in another 2 weeks. No, it's fine. It's fine. Yeah. We can only do this for about 2 hours, and then we need to take a break. It's just too close.
Yes, that's right. That's right. And one last thing. What do you want your kids, now that we know one of them's watching us, what do you want your kids to be thinking about when it comes to money? What's like the most important things? And we're still working on one.
When it comes to money?
Yeah. Like how do you want them to approach money?
How do I want my kids to approach money? It's not the end all, I guess. I mean, it certainly makes life simpler. I don't know. Well, I don't know. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes as you get understand the decisions that you make and why you make the decisions with money. That is probably the biggest thing that I can come up with. So if you want something, understand really why you want it. Whether it's an item, a lifestyle, a job, anything. Just understand why you want it. And then I guess if you understand why you want it, then you'll be easy to decide if it's really worth it. Because it is a limited resource in many respects. So if it's going to occupy your time to create it for this thing that you think you want, make sure that it's important enough to you, and in the long run, because you have to weigh lots of things when you make decisions. So
it's really funny because I would say Zoe takes more after you, and she was trying to buy a carpet recently, or rug, and I think she thought about it for 2 or 3 weeks. She sent us pictures. Should I get this? I'm not sure. and back and forth. And that was very similar to how you would be with that kind of purchase. Whereas Aiden is like me, like once he makes his decision that he wants something, just like watch out because he's already decided. And then it's a question of like, this is for people like me and maybe Aiden, where maybe if you could wait 3 days and you still want it after the 3 days, then you go buy it, but you don't buy it immediately. So I need that. But these guys, if they
I wonder if anybody has an app out there that works through Visa that allows you to purchase something, but it doesn't complete the transaction for 3 days. So somebody out there needs to invent this, and then find out how many of those transactions actually are completed.
Yeah.
Impulse buyers.
Impulse. How much is it? Yeah, like in that moment, that adrenaline rush, like, oh, this is going to be so good. And then you buy it.
Amazon doesn't want anything to do with that app.
No, not right now.
No.
Not right now. So thank you all for being here. I mean, feel free if you have other questions to tag me and I'll make sure and pass on what Tim thinks, but he definitely has his own money coaching thing that he could help us with, and we'll bring him back on. It's called an Amazon cart. Oh, except, that's right.
Okay, yeah. No, but you actually have to go through the whole process. You have to click complete the order. I think that's my... Yeah, I put things in the cart all the time, and then I go back and it's because I'm doing research to find out if that's... Because I don't want to lose my research. So, I put things in the cart all the time.
Look at Marianne is here. Hi, Marianne. Say hi to Henry for us.
Hello.
So, thank you. Thank you all for your lovely notes and hanging out with us. I hope that there's been something here. We kind of covered a lot of different territory, but you got a lot of good philosophy. Are you getting... great question. So, Facebook account.
Well, okay.
He got a Facebook account. You guys do not look at the picture that he put.
Oh, please look at the picture. But I have to tell you that I'm not willing to go out there and friend everybody, but you can certainly look me up. Because I'm still the reluctant Facebooker. I had to do it for her because at some point, when I get a handle on this whole thing, I will be out there and about. But
tell him what you did. Where was the philosophy of your picture? He didn't want to put his own picture. So what did you pick?
Just look me up. Do you know how do they do that? Because there's like 500 of us out there.
So they could spend a lot of time. He's made it as anonymous as possible, but it's a really funky cartoon picture.
It's a cartoon character. It's a thoughtful. It's okay. It's a thoughtful caveman because that is really how I see myself.
A thoughtful caveman picture. There you go.
I am the thoughtful caveman. I'm quite happy to live in a cave the rest of my life. It doesn't bother me at all.
I'm not going to live in the cave. That's so I will live in the castle, and then you live in the cave, and then we'll just be like, hi.
Oh, here we go. But I got a beautiful hot spring out back, so.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, then maybe I'll visit.
Okay.
Thank you. So it wasn't so bad?
No, it wasn't so bad.
They're kind and nice.
No, my hands
friendly.
are still sweating.
But they're a very kind audience. Thank you all so very much for hanging out with us and for sharing your thoughts. Another podcast title. Thoughtful. Oh, there we go. Oh, she found you. Look, she found you.
Oh my God. Okay. I mean, you can probably assume my general reticence for doing this by how little I've actually looked at the camera, and so that gives you a small inkling into my personality. Yeah.
I like this. So did you get that? Your podcast can be called The Thoughtful Caveman.
Okay, just as long as somebody doesn't trademark it before I get a chance to. So. ThoughtfulCaveman.com.
Okay. You're getting crazy, silly. Awesome. Thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of your day. Let us know if you have any questions for Tim, the thoughtful caveman.
Okay. I'll do my best.
Bye.
Bye. I gotta get the camera. Oh, bye.
I don't know how to turn it off. I always struggle. Bye.